Hey everybody, what's up? It's Troy, and today I'm bringing some new content to the channel. A while ago, I had the thought, what if I could watch an entire college football season in the time frame it would usually take to watch a movie, about an hour and a half or 2 hours? And I looked around and I didn't really see any content like that, so I thought, why not make it myself? As if you know, if you follow this channel, it takes me a really long time to do anything. So today is the first episode of this series, but I'm really excited for it. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than how it's going to be moving forward. Today's episode is mostly just about context of the college football world at this time, rather than going game by game and week by week. But I'm really excited to get into this, and I figure why not just release it one episode at a time. So if you're ready to take this journey with me, remember some awesome plays, remember some awesome games, and remember some guys with me, Troy. Hope you enjoy sticking around for the rest of the series. Heading into 2014, reliable academic source SECSportsFan.com provides the incredibly biased but honestly kind of right opinion that SEC teams were in the midst of an unprecedented streak of national title wins, winning 7 out of the 8 last national titles, with only Jameis Winston and his crab legs breaking the streak and winning 2013's title. The top teams over this past decade or so were LSU, who had nabbed the title in the insane 2007 season despite 2 triple overtime losses, and Florida, who had become the first ever team to win the NCAA basketball and football titles in the same year, which was 2006. The Gators then won again in 2008, led by the first ever sophomore quarterback to win the Heisman Trophy, Tim Tebow. But by far the most successful program over the past decade had to be the Alabama Crimson Tide, led by coach Nick Saban. They racked up 3 national titles in 2009, 2011, and 2012, and 2014's team was ready to continue the sustained excellence they showed by finishing the past 6 seasons ranked in the AP Top 10. Unfortunately for 2014's version of the Tide, they got matched up against a steamroller in a crop top named Ezekiel Elliot and his squad, the Ohio State Buckeyes, in the first ever installment of the college football playoff. Zeke set an impressive Sugar Bowl record with 230 rushing yards and capped off the game with an embarrassing 85-yard run on the usually stout Bama Defense. Ohio State then easily rolled over Oregon to win the 2014 national championship. So that's where we stand heading into the 2015 college football season. In the 2015 preseason poll, which, as we all know, preseason polls are the only indicator of how well college football teams will perform in a given year. Actually, let's save that topic for a different video. Anyway, the reigning champ Buckeyes stood at number 1, with Zeke, defensive end Joey Bosa, and quarterbacks Cardell I Ain't Come to Play School Jones and JT Barrett, all returning from last year's championship squad, making them the clear team to beat. In fact, they were the first ever unanimous number 1 in the preseason AP polls. However, it wasn't all smiles and rainbows in Columbus, as Joey Bosa was actually suspended for the first game of the 2015 season against Virginia Tech. He got hit with the old suspension for violating team policy. I mean, apparently it's against team policy to rip that MF Good Sticky OG Kush for some reason. And he made the decision to move out of the apartment that he shared with Zeke and into his own personal #gamercave. So kids, the clear lesson here is that if you ever go to Columbus, Ohio, and a buff man in a crop top offers you drugs, just say no. TCU was ranked number 2 in the preseason poll thanks to a number 2 of their own, quarterback Trevon Boykin. He finished 4th in last year's Heisman voting and led their electrifying up-tempo offense that was perfect, especially considering nobody plays a lick of defense in the Big 12. They were also led by former Washington NFL franchise that is getting renamed as I'm making this video wide receiver, Josh Doctson. The Big 12 is funny because it was probably my favorite conference to watch as a kid, just because of how damn fun it was to watch guys like Graham Harrell and Colt McCoy pass for like 1,200 yards and score 80 touchdowns a game. But then you kind of realize that the conference only won 1 title since 2000, just kind of mailed it in and sent Oklahoma to lose in the first round of every college football playoff, and, well, it just makes a lot of sense that it might not make it through the next round of realignment. Number 3 in the preseason polls was Alabama. This team had a ton to prove, as it's now been 2 years since they've seemed to have that dominating presence that the rest of the college football world was starting to get accustomed to.
How confident are you that Bama is a clear-cut favorite again here?
I'm not confident. I don't consider them a clear-cut favorite. Clear-cut means they're head and shoulders above everybody else. That day is not here for me.
No, too many holes, too many question marks on the offensive side of the ball, too many question marks at the offensive line, at quarterback, at wide receiver, a bunch of question marks. Nowhere close to a clear-cut favorite.
This was probably the biggest storyline in college football at this time. Fans outside of SEC country were theorizing that the SEC, as well as Bama specifically, had lost a step. And SEC fans, certainly not in the comment sections of SECSportsFan.com, but maybe in the darkest corners of their hearts, may have believed there was actually a grain of truth to that. To the haters, the Bama dynasty that had reigned from 2009 to 2012 was already long gone. And with Amari Cooper, TJ Yeldon, and Landon Collins all declaring for last spring's NFL draft, there was a ton of talent for Saban to replace in order to make it back to the college football playoff. Number 4 was Baylor, and I already kind of said my whole spiel about how the Big 12 isn't that good, so they probably didn't do much this year. But this was a super important year for enormous scumbag and head football coach Art Briles, as he spent this year promoting his 2014 book release, Beating Goliath, My Story of Football and Faith. This was also his last year coaching a meaningful football team, sorry to all the CFL fans out there, before getting rightfully fired for covering up a culture of sexual assault left to run rampant at the program. Bruh. But the boy Jarrett Stidham was the backup of this year's team, so that's pretty cool. Number 5 was Michigan State, who actually overcame a 20-point deficit to do this to those very Baylor Bears last year in the bowl game.
Now he has a chance at the ultimate redemption, a game-winning touchdown pass. That's fine, Lippett. Lippett's by himself at the top of the screen in a tight split. He caught one-on-one. Pass on 4th down. Here's Cook on 3rd down to the end zone. It's a touchdown! Keith Mumphrey ties the game at 41, and they're an extra point away from taking the lead.
That was pretty cool. They were led by quarterback Connor Cook, who to this day still has the most wins by a quarterback in Michigan State history. Bama's main competition in the SEC this year was slated to be their arch rival, number 6, Auburn.
I think you could look at Auburn and put them as a favorite.
Although they had lost stars Nick Marshall and Cameron Artis-Payne to the NFL draft, they still aimed to lead a solid ground attack into 2015, with emerging running backs Peyton Barber and Kerryon Johnson. The main team to watch out west in the Pac-12 was number 7 Oregon. Even though they'd lost last year's Heisman Trophy winner Marcus Mariota to the draft, they were still expected to do good. I'm going to give a minor spoiler and say watch out for running back Royce Freeman this year. Number 8 USC was also feeling pretty good about themselves to start out the year. They're expected to be pretty good this year. They're returning 3rd-year starting quarterback Cody Kessler. It's Coach Sark's 2nd year. He's starting to get used to things around here, and he got fired for being a blatant alcoholic and for starting the season 3-3. You could do one of those things maybe, but both? At least they still had Juju Corvette Smith-Schuster. Wonder if he was making vines back then in his college years. He had to have, right? I couldn't find any, but I did find this weird video of him dancing with a bunch of animated milk, so that could have been a vine. The last relevant conference, sorry American fans, rounds out with Florida State, projected at number 10, with Everett Golson at QB, who graduated from Notre Dame last year and is now allowed to play for Florida State? Seriously? How does the NCAA even work? This program won the national championship just 2 years ago, and they're still stacked with talent, like Dalvin Cook, Derwin James, and Jalen Ramsey, just to name a few. They had a decent year in 2014, but got almost tripled up by Marcus and the Ducks in the other college football playoff semifinal, where Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks faced off for just the 3rd time ever. And then lastly, we have number 12 Clemson. Ever since extremely overpaid, although less so at that time, coach Dabo Swinney took over in mid-2008, they had been a consistently good team, but never able to make it over that hump to be true championship contenders. But with Shaq Lawson on D and first-year starter at quarterback Deshaun Watson leading the offense, it'll be quite interesting to see what Dabo and his boys can do down in the swamp. I know they didn't play Florida in 2015. It's a bit. Some people know what I'm talking about. Yep, that's the first episode. Hope everyone liked it, and check back sometime in the next 6 to 12 months for episode 2. Peace!